Hi there. Welcome back to another Delightful Discussions. I am your hostess, Mariah Young. And today I'm going to ask you, how are you working to build community with your colleagues? I will be right back and we will be discussing that today. All right. Please feel free to say hello if you pop in. This is a topic that is really important to me. I say this every time, but it really is. This is something that I feel like since we have had all these changes over the last few years, I don't feel like we've gotten back to where we were before all of the changes. And I see a lot of fear and a lot of things happening. So let's talk about this today. So, again, I am Mariah Young. I am your hostess. I am the CEO of the Gals community and the First Impressions Director of 48 Days, as well as your concierge to all things disc related. I love talking about disc and personalities. In fact, if you know me, it is very hard for me not to talk about these things. So it is a topic I am very, very passionate about. So today we're going to look at this from a couple of different views. First off, my boss and mentor of many, many years, Dan Miller, shares that your success is in proportion to the amount of what he calls 3 a.m. relationships that are in your circle. Now, what is that? The 3 a.m. relationships is somebody that you could call at 3 a.m. and they are going to answer, first off, and they are going to help you with whatever you need. And I will be honest, his challenge to us in our Keller event that we had recently called Innovate was to try and build as many 3 a.m. relationships as your age. Wow. Well, I'm going to share with you, I just had a birthday. I am now 42, very proud to be so. So 42 3 a.m. relationships, that really challenged me. And I thought, wow, I feel like if I sat and wrote it out, I probably do have a good amount of 3 a.m. relationships, but I don't know if I would have 42. So, what is it that keeps us from building those kinds of relationships today? It almost seems like an old fashioned notion. So, how can we do that? Relationships are pivotal to our success. And we are told by so many leaders that we will be like the top 5 people that we hang out with. So these are all very challenging things these days, considering all the changes that we've done, the less in person contact, relying more on technology and social media. How can we build those relationships? So I'm going to go through a few of the problems, though, that we are seeing today, some of the trends that are happening, and discuss that. And please feel free in the comments to share with me what difficulties or struggles you have had in building relationships. And let's really make this a discussion and conversation. All right. I do have my coffee. Hopefully, you have something to drink. Oh, look, it says friend. How appropriate. So, some of the problems and the trends, of course, that we are seeing, and you guys will probably relate to some of these, I know I did, is we have limited in person contact. Many of us are working so many different formats of work these days compared to what we were doing I would say, COVID, really. I remember the day that the schools closed. In fact, it was very close to my birthday. So it was this time of year in 2020. And how unprecedented, we kind of came to hate that word actually, how unprecedented it was with the full on closures of school, something that I don't think any of us anticipated ever happening. The closures of businesses, just everything, all contact was supposed to be cut off. Um, and that was just so significant. I honestly, of course, I'm not that old, only being 42. I can't remember a time in my life, however, when we've ever done anything on that large of a scale. So massive, worldwide, countrywide, worldwide. It was crazy. So for since then, we have started doing more in person, and I definitely see people are hungry for it, but it's still a lot less. Sometimes I think maybe we've even forgotten how to be in person, right? Like manners are not the same, etiquette is not the same. Um, I watch people in stores, even having been someone who has worked in retail, and I think, oh my gosh, guys, like, don't leave a mess for these people who are already so stressed out and are low staffed and can't keep up. You could tell they can't keep up. Don't make it worse. Like, let's make it better. I was taught leave a place better than you came, right? And I think that should apply to stores and restaurants and places that we're going today. We should have more patience and more sympathy and empathy, really, because we've all been through it together for those who are working today. Some of these people didn't stop work, they were considered essential. So they have been working through all of this time and didn't get what we all called the big break. And I think we've actually forgotten some of the importance of being in person. It has been very interesting I love seeing how much people have been focusing on family. I think that is one of the beautiful things that has come out of this. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in just a minute. But I think we've forgotten how important it is for us to also have outside of our family relationships. People who challenge us, speak into us, encourage us, empower us. All of those things are really important. And we might not get that at home ever. And so we could just be content to just be who we are. And listen, there's no judgment there. I think being content is a very good thing. But I think we've forgotten how important relationships in person really are. We have another trend that we have is that we have an increased reliance on technology. I mean, we had to, right? To do school, to do business meetings, to do everything, we turned to video conferencing. Oh my gosh, like, and it became such a thing, right? I remember hearing things about like Zoom fatigue and video conference fatigue, and how people are, actually checking out more because they don't have to turn on the camera, they don't have to interact, they don't have to do anything, and so they could just be sitting there. We laughed our mullet wear. We're now calling it progressive wear because you start out partially ready, and then throughout the day you get more ready as you go. Which I think is hilarious. Sorry, I just realized my glasses are leaving quite the glare there. Um, so we, have just gotten so reliant on seeing the whole world through technology, social media, all of that. And there's definitely some negatives that have come out of that, right? We compare ourselves to everybody else. You only see the polished part of um, people's lives. And in gals, we like to call that polish that poo. It's a sticker that we have in the gals community. Because you're really only seeing the polished part, right? You don't see all the rest of the story, like the mess and the craziness and the chaos of people's lives. We only see what they want us to see. So that can be really stressful as well, because then we find ourselves trying to always keep up with the Joneses, is what they used to call it back in the day. Now it's keeping up with the Kardashians, right? Another thing that we have seen is just an amazingly increased amount of stress. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, absolutely can relate to this. I mean, everything has gone through changes. Again, that word unprecedented, don't like it, but it is the truth. There are changes that within my lifetime I've never seen. And I don't, I'm sure several could say they haven't either, right? Um, Also, a lot of people are taking on more work for same pay. They're low staffed, which is a vicious cycle within itself, right? Can't bring on more clients because you don't have enough people, but you don't have enough people to bring on more clients or to keep the business even moving, right? And of course, lately there's been, the layoffs, and people are just straight up exhausted and worn out, right? We have been going, 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 and we've been pivoting and changing and making all these decisions. And there is such thing as decision fatigue. I mean, when we have this amount of change in our lives, and the highest percentage of people are S's and C's who do not like change, that's exhausting. Our brains are in like this fight mode all the time. And have we come off of that? It's hard to say. Now, listen, I am not a affiliate of BetterHelp. I probably should be because I recommend them all the time. But there are some really great options if you are finding yourself in that place where you're just like, yeah, I have not come off of the stress level from everything that has happened. Please do seek out somebody who can help you with some coping mechanisms, the ability to just talk. I love how one of my dear friends called a counselor or therapist a paid best friend with tools to actually help you move past what it is you're going through. That is a perfect description of a counselor or therapist. So I'm just going to plug that there because I just feel like it is so, so important. All right. So I will also share, even though there is a lot of difficulties that have come from our changes that we've been through, there's also some beautiful things that have come. I mean, I won't go through all of them. I have seen a lot of beautiful things. I really feel like as a society, we're putting up with a lot less things that we just used to not talk about. But that's a whole nother topic. With relation to community and creating relationships, there are some positives that have come from the pandemic, from the changes that we have seen. So, where the increased use of technology can be a negative thing, it can also be a positive thing. We have really been relying on technology, right? And it is allowing us to connect in ways that were not possible before. Making a long distance phone call previously took a lot of money, right? I know I got in trouble once because we moved. We're a military family. And I was calling my ex boyfriend way back in the day. And the phone bill was like $450 back then. That was a lot of money. Probably more. I don't even know what the equivalent would be. I should do the math. Really bad. So I got in a lot of trouble, right? But today we can make calls. I mean, I would just spoke with someone last week in Africa. I have people that I have spoken to in Australia and New Zealand and all over the world. And for one little Zoom uh, subscription, that is amazing. It is allowing us in times when we are unable to be in person to be able to connect. And so there are different ways, and we've watched people be so creative with that. Oh my gosh. I mean, I really loved the creativity that we saw come from people because they had to be, right? We had to be innovative and creative. So I love that. We've also taken a lot more time for reflection. I think all of us over these last few years have seen, oh my gosh, I have been running like a hamster on a wheel, getting nowhere. For what? I think this is a beautiful thing that we have not just seen generationally, because there are some things that have happened generationally. And if you're curious about those, I highly recommend Millennial Whisperer by John Tuff. Oh, I hope I'm going to say the right name there. I will look it up and share it down below. But Millennial Whisperer is definitely the book. There are things that have happened generationally to make people a little less committed and loyal to a company, but there are things that have happened worldwide and countrywide that have really brought us all to a place of, why am I working like this? And what exactly am I going to get from this, right? The story of go to school, get a good job, stay with that company forever, retire with that company. I mean, that's been gone for a really long time. But yet I think we are all still kind of working like it was still there. But I think what it did is it wiped it out completely, right? We all understood, like, oh, okay, what's really important in my life? And I feel like I've been watching people design their lives more than ever before. And I love that. And I talk about that in my signature self coaching and gals. But I think what can happen though is we can just go in one direction versus using a wheel of life and making sure that that is a balanced thing that we are doing. But again, whole nother topic. But I think it's amazing. I love seeing how much people are really taking that time for themselves, for their family, and for the life that they really want to create more than ever before. And I think we already touched on this, but an increased empathy. Wow. I mean, we could probably say we're seeing both, right? We're seeing an increased empathy, but we're also seeing raised levels of stress. So people are just off the charts crazy with some things. But I also think on the flip side of that, we are seeing people who are relating to one another because we all went through it, right? Our empathy levels are so much higher. We're building way stronger relationships. Many of us are saying we don't want the surface level relationships. We want to go deep and we want to be connected. We don't want to just create acquaintances, right? So there are some amazing things that have happened with that. And then, really, along with that, more appreciation for human connection. Oh my gosh. And that's what I'm saying when I see that, people are wanting more in person. People are hungry. They're craving that physical contact, that hug, that handshake, that fist bump, even. Being able to connect in person. We saw this at Keller, Texas, at our event with the 48 Days Eagles community. It was amazing. And honestly, we didn't prepare a ton. We did leave room for connection and community, but we could have even left more because people were so hungry for it. There were conversations happening all over the room. It was beautiful. I loved it so much, being able to just say hi to a person that you've seen online for years, and here they are in person. Oh my gosh, that connection was amazing. So, we've looked at the problem. We've looked at some beautiful things that have happened because of the changes we've been through. And so now I'm going to ask, how can we take advantage of these changes? How can we leverage them, is the word I prefer, so that we can take this problem and turn it into what both of my mentors, Dan Miller and Ashley Logston, like to call an opportunity for a solution. So I'm going to actually discuss this a little bit by personality. So lifestyle and personality have so much to do with the ways that you are going to prefer to build this. I don't want you guys to feel like you have to all of a sudden go out and become this extremely extroverted person. You do not. In fact, most people are not going to go about it that way. There are a few very small percentage of people who enjoy that type of interaction. So I will share, and as we start to go through the DISC, for those of you who are not familiar, it's an acronym for driven, interactive, steady, and creative. We like to say creative versus conscientious thinker, but those 4 personalities are the main behavior and personality styles out of lots and lots of data. There's lots and lots of personality profiles out there, but this is the one that we prefer in the 48 days. And because it's so adjustable, there's so much information out there. There's so many different ways that you can take this and use it. So because it's behavior and personality, it goes hand in hand, right? It's connected. So we have actually been able to even connect those with other things as well. So it's a great one that we enjoy using. The majority of people are steady, 69%, the S, or we like to call them doves. And really, truly, I think that this speaks to, I think, how I see a lot of people going where they're like, I don't want inauthentic, I don't want fake relationships, I don't want surface level, all of that. I want to dive deeper. I don't want 100 friends. I'm good with 2 or 3 really good, solid friends, or a small group of women that I can connect with and feel loyal to. So, for most people, one-on-one coffees, maybe couples dates, little things are going to be more fun for them. And it doesn't mean they can't go to like a conference or a big event or things like that. But you're not going to be that person who needs to be like the center of attention or the person in charge or the one creating all of these types of events and, social scenarios. So you can still utilize technology. That is not a bad thing, but you really are going to be the person that is probably going to prefer that one-on-one, just time with a girlfriend, coffee, dinner, getting a drink. And there is nothing wrong with that. In our society, we tend to push for popularity, but that is not the way that most people work. It is a silly thing that we learn in, school, pretty much in school, and maybe a little bit on social media because, we now have our vanity measurements, your likes and things like that. But the truth is, most people are going to prefer that one-on-one connection. A phone call. Man, I spend so much time on phone calls because I love being able to talk to a person. An email is cool, a text is fine, but truthfully, where I'm going to thrive if I can't meet with that person in person is a phone call. Let's like talk. Let's actually hear each other's voices. It's amazing. So, those are really a great way to start, just reach out. I bet you if you reach out, like make a list of 10 friends and say, "Hey, I just want to get together for coffee. I just want to meet." Maybe it's someone that you've been interacting with on LinkedIn or Facebook, or you haven't even really like been able to connect in person, but you're really dear friends with them. I've seen that a lot where people are like, I've never met this person in person, but we're getting together. And oh my gosh, what that does for people is amazing. So if you're able to make that happen, I highly, highly recommend it. But do what you need to do and what you can do. That really is great. Heck, I've even seen people lately connecting on video games, right? Like they play video games together for years and years and years. They've, created whatever teams or whatever they do on some of those games. Sorry, I'm not a video game person. My husband and son are. So I watch their stuff, but I don't know the lingo that well. But they've created relationships with people and friendships, and have stayed connected with old friends who have moved away through their video games. So I'm actually kind of all for it. The next personality is going to be our C, or creative, or owl. We like to go with the birds. Thank you, Merrick Rosenberg, for that. We love that. And this is your more introverted personality. The doves and owls tend to be a bit more introverted. So you don't need a ton of time. In fact, really, you do need it, but you don't need a lot of it, right? You do love the people that you are connected to. You're very loyal. Some of you, especially if you're a dove, you might be, someone who's the only person that listens to somebody, right? Because that's your strength. It's your superpower. C's can tend to be that way as well. The thing that can happen with S's and C's is you can be isolated because you're not going to be the person who's probably going to, especially a C, especially a creative and an owl, you're not going to be proactive in reaching out. So I'm going to encourage you to do so. And what I was going to say, which I did not finish, I apologize. Hi, here, interactive. Is that you might be surprised how many people are also wanting that, but maybe are too afraid to reach out. And it can be really easy to get in your heads and think, oh my gosh, this person hasn't reached out to me for a while. Maybe they don't like me anymore. Maybe they, all of this. And really, they're just busy living their lives. they probably think about you even, but just, oh shoot, now I got to go do this. I got to go take the kids to school. I got to do this, do dry cleaning, homework, food, laundry, all the things that come along with, living life. And they have no idea you're feeling that way. Reach out, say hi, send a quick text. Hi, how are you doing? You might be really surprised of the response. Heck, I do that still to people I haven't reached out to in years. Sometimes it's a, hey, just checking to see if this is still your phone number. And it is. It's crazy. My dad has a cool story about this. There were some friends that he's was friends with, gosh, way pre-COVID. They worked together, and my dad has actually moved several times with companies with his work. And this guy who had retired and actually moved out to Mexico, and he was just sharing with me that he did that very thing. He actually reached out. He actually had heard about an opportunity that he thought would be a good fit for this person, but he knew he had moved to Mexico, and he's like, I'm just going to check and see if this is even his phone number anymore. So he reached out, he said hi, and oh my gosh, the person actually only lives 30 minutes away from them now. They moved back into the US and are, doing different things than what they were doing before, but they only live 30 minutes apart. He didn't even know. So he was so glad that he had reached out, and they're going to get together. And how cool is that? So you might be surprised. I'd really encourage you to build up that courage and reach out. So, especially those of you owls, and it can be through phone calls, it can be through video. Again, those are beautiful things that have come about, and you may as well utilize those, right? All right, you're driven. So your driven people can tend to be isolated somewhat sometimes too, because they're so task oriented. So this is something I'm going to encourage you if you are a driven or an eagle. Make sure that you focus on the end goal of building relationships and take actionable steps to make it happen. This, using your superpower of being task driven, is a good thing. Reach out to people. Start taking action steps. My husband, I was so proud of him. He is definitely driven. He's an eagle. He likes to accomplish big adventures, big things. And he's been needing to get back into, running and things like that. He hasn't done, a run in quite some time. But when he does it, he likes to do big. That is just how he does things. He schedules a Tough Mudder or a ultra marathon or whatever. So he invited a friend to do that with him. They scheduled it, they paid for it. That's a big one. And so I know that is going to push him to do the things that he needs to do to get that goal. So that is a great thing to do. If you are driven and you need that, invite someone with you. Pay to do the thing that you're going to do, which will make you do it. But invite somebody to do it with you that can do it. That is a key, though. He has invited people to do things with him. Like he likes to. We used to live in Washington State, and there's Mount St. Helens over there, and there's a thing called the Lewitt Trail, which is going around Mount St. Helens. Depending on your level of hiking and things like that, it can be anywhere from 3 to 4 days. Or less. Some do it in less. They tend to do 3 days. But he's done it a couple times with people who were not able to finish, or, injuries do happen. Injuries totally happen on that trail because it's a crazy trail. He tells me about it, and I'm like, that sounds like torture. So I'm so thankful that he's willing to go do that with friends. But it's a crazy trail. So making sure that the people that you invite are not only available, but also able are some big things. So, and who like similar things. My husband and his best friend, when they do it, they just like to take lots of photos. In fact, we had another dear friend of ours do it with them, and he was really surprised at how often they stop to take pictures. They don't take breaks. They take photo opportunities. So I love it. So finally, and certainly not least, it's actually my personality is the I, interactive, or parrot. And these are the people that have been hurt with the no in person the most. We are the very extroverted, do love to be, I don't necessarily love to be the center of attention, but I love influencing for events, for things. I love inspiring, I love motivating, I love persuading people and teaching. And so check in on those people, please. They may still not be doing very well. I actually happen to still work remote. I love what I do. Love, love, love. This is part of what I do on this show. I love the people. I love the message. I love all of it. But one thing we have determined, my boss and I, is that I need more in person stuff, right? I need to be around people. I love people. I get energized by being around people. Just a phone call will energize me for a whole week. So I used to say, if I could get paid to encourage and empower and talk to people, oh my gosh, that would just be like living the dream for me. And that's pretty much what I do. However, those in person moments are really key. So for you, I would say focus as much as you can. Be patient with this because not everyone's in the same place of need, but find ways to get that interaction. So I know, of course. Oh, I also moved, by the way. So I left my entire roots of like people. So Gals Community came out of my need for business, um, less business networking. I needed to be around ladies for fun. I need to karaoke, to have slumber parties, to go do things together, learn, take classes, all that kind of stuff with other ladies. I needed high teas. I just needed fun, right? I needed fun events. And so I created the Gals Community. Well, that's still going on in Washington and Oregon State, and it's going well. We're doing great things. I love it. But I'm now down here in Utah, and so I am building that. But I recognize, I've joined a group of ladies in the area that do bunko once a month. So I've joined that. And myself and my mother-in-law, she is an S, so she also needs those relationships. We are going to start doing every month a craft night because that's something that's really easy for me. It's a very low-hanging fruit, as they say, because I used to do craft nights. So I have lots of glue guns, lots of supplies. I mean, I literally have so many supplies. I need to do craft nights because I need people to come use my stuff. So taking that opportunity, but what is it for you that would be a very easy, low-hanging fruit? I have dear friends who do hiking. They just take women out and just go hike. Like, let's just go hike. They happen to live in the Northwest, so it's really a beautiful location to do that. I think once summer hits, or at least spring, I've got my e-mountain bike, which I love. So we will start to get back into some mountain biking groups. And, my neighbor just got an e-mountain bike. And so we're talking about doing some bike riding together. And who knows, maybe we'll invite some other ladies to do that as well. So just find ways to include people. Heck, go to a Zumba class, go do something where there's people. When you work out, find ways to get people or bring people in, however you need to do that. So, and I will say, use social media. Something about eyes is we love to share. We love to you may not love to teach, but I really personally think everyone is a teacher. We all teach about something, even if it's, gardening or cooking or video games, even. I feel like we all, especially those of us who are interactive parrots, we like to share. We like to inspire and motivate. That gives us so much energy. So social media is actually a great thing. I will say I have learned to work to keep the negative out. That is actually really, really important for an interactive person, the eye. One thing of negativity can set us back majorly. So make sure you are careful about the notifications you receive on social media. I lock mine down very strictly and am very careful what I allow in. And I think that's for everybody. It's just especially big for eyes because we fear rejection. We feel rejection on a very different level. Just like, I mean, I know everybody feels it. So please hear me there. And so I would say for anyone, really guard your heart, guard your mind. And I am all for, in fact, this is one thing I think that is beautiful. We are putting up with a lot less toxicity in our lives. And I love that. I think it is key. So don't go ahead and lock down your sorry, I just got distracted. Someone says they love Zoom calls as well as phone calls. Awesome. I love that too. Yeah, I think but lock down your social media. I have a virtual assistant that checks all of my messages now because the spam that I was getting and the things that were they would just kind of tear me down. Like, man, I really want to connect with people, but I don't want to be spammed all the time. And I don't want people just reaching out because of business stuff. I get on LinkedIn, that can be a little bit different. We are trying to make connections and we're business colleagues, all of that. However, still, I don't check that anymore. I let my virtual assistant check the initial messages, and then she lets me know, hey, this person reached out. This person reached out. Yeah, gosh, I wish I knew who that was. I see it's a LinkedIn user, but it doesn't tell me who. But yes, I curate your social media carefully. I so agree. And again, it's not even showing me that anyone's watching. It's a bad thing about StreamYard, but I love it. Anyways, so really just guard your heart, guard your mind, but also don't be afraid to reach out. You might be surprised how many people are just thinking, man, I really want to reach out to that person, but I have a fear. There's so much fear. And yet, every time I've reached out to somebody or I've called or I've just sent a personal message, it has been well received. And even some people that it's been a reach for me to do that with because I'm like, I don't really know you, but for whatever reason, I've been drawn to you. So I'm just sending you a message and I love what you're doing, right? I think that is a really great way. It's authentic. Please be authentic with it. Don't be spammy. Do make sure that you mean what you say when you reach out, which I do, and really create those connections. So, I hope this was helpful for you guys. It was a topic that is very dear to my heart as someone who has in the past struggled with depression and not living in my personality of someone who is more extroverted. I now realize I'm extremely extroverted. It was really good for me to learn how to leverage that, how to use it to my advantage and to the advantage of others, really. So use those strengths that you have and feel free to reach out to people. If you have questions, if you're curious about this disc thing I keep talking about, I actually do help leaders and companies, leaders of companies even, to learn how to communicate and motivate their team better so that they create their dream team. I also help a lot of coaches to understand their clients better so that they can create personalized strategies for their clients. So I do a lot of work around this. I love it. I could talk about it all day long, as you could probably tell. But I'm happy to just even have a very honest conversation about it. It is something that I enjoy. And I personally love helping people be successful. And this is one way that I get to help them do that. So have a fantastic day, guys. Please feel free to reach out. If you're watching the replay, even I will be checking those comments. And I love responding. It is very fun for me. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a fantastic day. Oh, I don't have my stuff ready. Have a good day. Bye.